1,000 points of Death Guard tonight. Going to be bringing a patrol detachment as usual for the Death Guard. In the HQ slot, we have a Malignant Plaguecaster. He's not going to pay any points for any relic or warlord trait, but he is taking Smite, of course, Miasma of Pestilence, and then Curse of the Leper. In the troops, we have a small unit of 10 Poxwalkers, and then 5 Plague Marines. We have a Sigil of Decay, Icon of Despair, Flail of Corruption, a Blight Launcher, and then 1 standard guy in the back. And the Plague Champion has the Power Fist. In the elites, we have Blightlord Terminators, 5 of them, Flail of Corruption, Blight Launcher, all with Bale Swords, and then 1 Combi Melta. In the heavies, 2 Plagueburst Crawlers. They are fun to play with. And they have the entropy cannons with the heavy slugger. And then fast attack, we have 2 Foetid Bloat-drones, both equipped with the heavy Blight Launchers and the Plague Probes. So that is 1,000 points of Death Guard. Let's see what they'll be facing with the Sisters.
Here we have a battalion detachment of Bloody Rose Sisters, totaling out at 996 points, led by my regular Canoness with a Blessed Blade, Iron Syphilis, and she's got Rapturous Blows on her. Then a stock Canoness, and I'm trying to bring a Dogmata to use some of the battle hymns, special rules for the Sisters. Got a Rhino that has the Repentia squad in, having 1 big squad versus 2 little squads this time. And my fast attack, got my Seraphim. And then I've got a small 5 sister squad, and then I've got a 20 sister squad with 1 flamer in there, and then a 19 sister squad. Is proof of concept idea that goes around with a big armies using bricks. We'll see how it goes. I just thought I'd just give it a shot.
Any relics or warlord traits?
No warlord traits, but the relics, yeah, the Iron Surplus is what the Canoness has.
Alright, armies have been deployed. Death Guard did win the roll-off for attacker defender, chose to be defender, and picked this side of the board. So we are going across the long way, the old hammer and anvil deployment. So right down the middle, we have on the home objective, we have 2 Plagueburst Crawlers, kind of holding down the middle. And then on the left side, we have a Foetid Bloat-drone. And then packed in here, I'm not too confident about this heavy left flank, but I'm going to go with it and see. We have the Poxwalkers crammed in with the Plague Marines and then the Malignant Plaguecaster. So a heavy left flank as far as my troops go. And then on the very right-hand side, behind line of sight blocking, we have the Foetid Bloat-drone on the right. And then in reserves, we do have 5 Blightlord Terminators. Now look at all of these glorious sisters ready to go to battle.
Deployment is set them all up in the middle. 19, 5, 19. My HQs are in the middle to spread out their auras, or try to. And a Rhino with my Repentia in it.
Gunning up the right flank.
And some Seraphim in reserve.
Yeah, so that's the battlefield. Line of sight blocking, line of sight blocking, line of sight blocking. All the buildings on the left and right are line of sight blocking. And then we have industrial structure right in the middle. So that will be providing -1 to hit when shooting through it. If, you know, which will be most of the battle. There are some alleyways which, you know, some of these tanks can be shooting through down the pass. But let's get on the camera here, the dice roll for first turn. My son Jack's gonna roll for the Death Guard. Sisters roll 2. Death Guard roll 5. So Death Guard get the first crack. Let's see how much of a dent we can put in that sister battle line. Let's get to it. First turn Death Guard movement phase. This is where we move. So with the Rhino, and from previous games, the Repentia do scare me. So I do kind of want to crack that Rhino open if I can and make the Repentia walk. But there are a lot of sisters on the board that will get on objectives. So I have that kind of decision to make. But with that said, this Foetid Bloat-drone flew over here. We do have shots on the Rhino. If it's not designed to crack Rhinos open, it's more designed to kill infantry. So if the Rhino does fall from the 2 Plagueburst Crawlers that kind of crawled up here on the home objective, and they do have line of sight down onto that Rhino with their entry cannons. So if those do work and crack that open, that's what that Foetid Bloat-drone over there is ready for. This Foetid Bloat-drone that was behind the hab block jumped up and has a clear shot at the big blob of sisters. Yeah. And then over here, my massed infantry, my small massed infantry, the Poxwalkers shambled to the left, kind of up. They're in a holding pattern. Malignant Plaguecaster followed the Plague Marines up into the ruined building here. And then that servo skull there is just to remind me that they are retrieving Nephilim, because we are 6 inches away from all the deployment lines. So they're going to try to do that to start getting some points on secondaries. In the second phase, I have Miasma, Pestilence, Smite, and Crystal Leper. There's really no line of sight and need to do any of that in risking of Perils of the Warp. So I'm going to hold off on the psychic phase. So let's get to the shooting phase. Should be a key one, I think, for the Death Guard to try and crack that Rhino. Death Guard have finished their shooting phase, and we didn't have any assaults. So I played Disgusting Force on this Plagueburst Crawler. Essentially started with this, my left Plagueburst Crawler, and targeted that Rhino. You can see it's not any longer there, but it brought it down a good many. I think there was 3 wounds remaining, and then this Plagueburst Crawler finished it off with that Disgusting Force. The heavy sluggers from here did pick off 1 sister on the unit of 20. So that was the casualties. And then with the Rhino cracked open, you can see the Repentia did pile out. Chris tried to get it without line of sight here, but it just couldn't happen for the Repentia. So the Repentia were shot into with the Blight launcher, and he scored a healthy 5 hits, 5 wounds, and brought the sisters down. 2 of the sisters did die coming out of the Rhino. So there's 1 Repentia, which Chris did spend his miracle dice of 2 to keep her in the fight, passing her morale check. So that was the turn. Let's get to the sisters. Bottom of turn 1. Sisters movement phase. Actually, the whole phase.
Yeah. What we just did is we advanced up, got on some objectives, and yeah, and since they advanced, they're all full of rapid fire weapons. Not much else to do.
Look at that. A bunch of clanking armor just marching up the field. They are on the...
They do not clank. They are finely ordered machines.
Okay, yes.
You
I play Xenos
rusty stuff, and your...
My orcs.
You get all clank and clunk. These are finely ordered. There's a gentle hum as the hydraulics move them gracefully up the battlefield.
My bad. I'm sorry, sisters. Oh, and then one thing to note, the golden statue over here, this is Chris's, he picked a secondary objective.
Defend the shrine.
Defend the shrine. So that is important to him. And then if I take it at the end of the game, it's important to me. So that is that. Let's head into top of turn 2. Death Guard, top of turn 2. I did score just the 4 points for the primary there, but in the nothing really happened in the command phase. But in the movement phase, the Poxwalkers did shamble up a little closer into the factory here, the building. The Death Guard decided to be bold like the sisters, even though they're outnumbered, and single-filedly headed out onto that objective, and the Plaguecaster followed up from behind. This Malignant Foetid Bloat-drone, shifted over here to get shots in through that gap, and then he's screening some backfield stuff. The Plagueburst Crawlers did shift back. They're a backfield unit, so, you know, whatever on that. This Foetid Bloat-drone stayed where he is. He's got a target-rich environment. In the backfield, the Terminators did come in. There was still some toe-in abilities on the home objective, so they came in, but they do want to get a charge off, so they're going to do some shooting here or there and do some shenanigans backfield. So that is that. In the psychic phase, the Malignant Plaguecaster did do a smite, rolled a 9. Chris did not deny, and we rolled a healthy 6 for the wound. So 3 sisters were brought down in the unit on Defend the Shrine. We did play try to cast Curse of the Leper, but that did not go off on a 5. So let's get to the shooting phase. Shooting phase has been completed. The sisters are still there, but they have been whittled down. With a combined shooting of Plague Marines, 2 Foetid Bloat-drones, 2 Plagueburst mortars, and then the Terminators over there targeted all of them and brought 9 down. You know, we are playing it that they are in cover, -1 to hit, so it certainly did help, but I think he would have been alive regardless. So the big blob did survive. We do have a charge to make here, and then a charge to make over there with the Terminators, so that'll be the next phase. See what happens. Death Guard end of assault phases. Both units did get in. The Terminators rolled a healthy 10, and then they rolled a 6 and got in. And they did very well in combat. There was 1 sister remaining, and then she ultimately ran in combat. And then the Flail and the Champion took out the 5 there. So I'll take that as a good push, and let's get into Sisters bottom turn 2. We have Seraphim possibly coming in. Sisters movement.
Yep. You start moving over here to try to deal with these guys, and the Seraphim came in on the far side to do some Nephilim data work.
Yep, they're getting Nephilim. Everything shifted to the Plague Marines. All right, let's see what they do in the shooting phase. End of shooting phase, the sisters converged onto the Plague Marines, unloaded everything they had. It was a healthy round of shooting, but also a healthy round of saving. So 1 Plague Marine fell. That T5 really helped the Plague Marine. So we're going to get on with the charges. We got these 2 charging, Repentia and Sister Repentia, and then Palatine and probably everybody's going in. All right, so we have a big scrum in objective number 2. So, sisters, what did we play? A miracle.
A couple things going on to make this happen. There's a war hymn. This is an interesting thing that makes Bloody Rose, even the bricks, work when they don't get shot up. And that they have their base 1 attack, Bloody Rose gets another attack, the war hymn gives them another attack. So a lot of them just get lots of hits in there. The Canoness and the Palatine, they're giving them rerolls on 1 to hit, rerolls 1 to wound. And then there's the miraculous ability that is a one-time use from the Canoness, and what that gave them was any rolls of 6 to wound or mortal wounds in addition to anything else he gave. So that took care of 1, and enough rest got through. I didn't even get to roll all my dice, so it works well. So I guess it's a proof of concept that a block of Bloody Rose regular battle sisters can really do work once they get there.
Yeah.
Now they're going to get vaporized.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, they took down 5 with half their attacks. So
with less than half their attacks.
Less than half.
We rolled 20 and they had 45.
So they could take on a good power armored unit of more than 10.
Or they could, if there was one's close enough, you could multi-charge them. So
yeah,
it's a good proof of concept. I heard about it, wanted to try it, and that's what that was the goal, to learn and see how that worked.
Yeah. So
there's the trick.
That was end of turn 2. Chris and I were joking. I said if these 2 had pie plates back in, I don't know, was it 6 that they shed?
6 or 7, whenever they did, yeah.
That would have been a tasty target.
Yep.
So let's get to the points and head into turn 3. End of movement phase for Nurgle. Turn 3, we moved. The Poxwalkers shambled up. I believe we're in charge range of something if we need to get it in there. Drone flew up. Malignant Plaguecaster shifted over. This guy shifted just a touch back, still towing in on that. This guy moved forward towards objective 3. We're going to target in on there. This guy was just shy of that objective, but I moved down anyways. We do have the Seraphim over here doing their thing, but we're going to concentrate on the big blob. And then the Termies moved off of the objective, but they're going to go in and try and, you know, shoot and get the kill. So let's see what happens in the psychic and shooting phase. Malignant Plaguecaster in the psychic phase. We did smite first. Rolled a 5. Chris did not deny it with a roll of a 5. So that went off, and I did 3 mortal wounds. And then I attempted to do Curse of the Leper. I rolled a 7. But Chris did play the stratagem where he can...
Purity of Faith gives as my active faith, or my deny goes to a 4 up instead of a 6 up for
yes
the sisters.
And he denied the Curse of Leopard. So that would have been good. So let's head on to the bulk of the shooting and see what is left alive. End of shooting phase. Went well. Both Blight drones and the 2 Plagueburst Crawlers finished off the unit of 19 in there. So all the troops are dead. So that led us to have a situation where we have 4 characters and a Repentia. So I chose to do split firing. The combi Melta and the Blight launcher went into the Canoness, dealing 2 wounds, and then the combi bolters finished off the last remaining Repentia. So we're going to attempt to charge here, and possibly with, I don't know, possibly with the plague. I'm going to have a think on the Poxwalkers. So let's get to the charge phase. End of Death Guard turn 3, the assault. We still got a scrum going on in the middle here. The Terminators went on just solely the Canoness and brought her down to 1, and then in return the Canoness brought down 1 Terminator. Over here, the Poxwalkers did get a multi-charge in on the 2 sisters, the Sister Repentia and the Dogmata or whatever. And then the Palatine did a heroic intervention, so there was 3 in on the Poxwalkers. Ultimately, Poxwalkers didn't really do much, but they did bring a wound off the Sister Repentia over here, or Sister Repentia Superior. And then ultimately they brought, in return, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 4 Poxwalkers fell to that. So that's that, people. Heading into Sisters, bottom turn 3. End of Sisters. There really wasn't much moving. The what did they call it? Yeah, they basically just advanced over. Next turn they would have done their Nephilim, but they couldn't do that. Over here, the sorry, I can't remember who's the one.
Which one?
Canoness.
Canoness.
Yeah,
Canoness died.
Yeah, she killed 1 more Terminator and then fell just to 1. She almost survived it. And then over here, the combined efforts of these 3 ladies took out the Poxwalkers. But with that said, the amount of attrition that went on the sister side, the next 2 turns, I would push out and shoot and try and maximize the points. So Chris is going to call it there. But hopefully you enjoyed watching this one. I'll do an endgame recap, as always, and just talk about it a bit. Chris was trying his, multiple bodies on the table, and I think his theory, he got to learn some things on his theory there.
Just want to try.
Yeah. So we will see you at the endgame recap. Battle report in for the channel. Fun one to play. Death Guard and Sisters, always a kind of good versus evil matchup, kind of a little bit of a classic showdown. But as far as the Death Guard go, we'll cover them first. This list, I think, is tuned in now at 1,000 points, at least in our little mini meta. If you play Death Guard, give this list a try at 1,000 points. I think you'll enjoy it. It offers a lot of shooting, a lot of firepower, a lot of armor cracking firepower. But then it gives you, the Blightlord Terminators, some backfield shenanigans that you can do. The Poxwalkers and the Plague Marines, not a lot of them. You kind of have to be frugal with what they're doing. But if they key in on certain objectives, it's fun to play with the Death Guard army. Which, I will say this, the Death Guard Codex, it's not a very thick codex. There's not a lot of options on the Death Guard. And I'm okay with that. It actually is a breath of fresh air to play the Death Guard just because there's not as many moving parts. There's still a lot of stratagems, probably more than you ever need to play with them. Pick through the stratagems. You know, the Malicious Follies is one of them with Plagueburst Crawlers that you kind of have to have. And there's a smattering of other stratagems that you truly need. The rest just put aside. You know, it uncomplicates the game when you kind of know what stratagems you're going to use. And the other ones, put them away. Know of them if you know, a weird scenario comes up during the battle that you need one of them. But, you know, at 1,000 points, you're not getting a lot of CPs, especially in this particular mission where you're not generating as many until turn 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so Death Guard is a very, I think, I don't want to say weak codex. It's a strong codex, but there's not a lot of options that you have to kind of, you know, cram your brain about thinking about different strategies. There's certainly other strategies you can do, but again, try this list out and give it a whirl with the Plagueburst Crawlers as the core. The Sisters of Battle. Now, Chris had mentioned that it was kind of a proof of concept list that he was trying with the Bloody Rose and the big squads of 20. I think it opened up our eyes a little bit of how well a 20 sister unit could do in a battle, as far as, you know, the rapid firing bolt guns, the charges, and then being backed up by the Canoness, the Palatine, and all that. I think there is very much potential in there. Talking through it at the end of the game, at 1,000 points, I think it hamstrings that theory a little bit, just because you're putting so much points into those 20 strong units that you don't have a lot of extra stuff to play with in the list, which there's a frugality to that. You know, Chris went all in with the mass troops, but then had a Rhino full of Repentia. Now, if the Rhino did survive first turn, or if Chris got first turn, he would have been in my face, which would have caused me to focus on the Repentia, because the Repentia can't be ignored. They are going to cut through your lines, and then this Death Guard list, there's not a lot of troops to cut through. So I would have had to focus on those Repentia while his 20 strong units were marching up the field and gunning me down and scoring a lot of primary points. Rolling high for first turn, Plagueburst Crawlers performed admirably, cracking open that, you know, the Rhino first turn, the Repentias came out of the Rhino, and then I had good placement with the Foetid Bloat-drone to gun them down as they piled out of that wrecked vehicle. So good strategy on the Death Guard, but you can't really plan for first turn. If you get first turn, you got to try and capitalize as much as you can, which they did. And you saw how it kind of slowed down the Sisters, I think, from turn 1, which is unfortunate for the Sisters. But Chris was trying to use terrain as best as he could. It just didn't happen on that one. So MVP, I'm going to give it to the Plagueburst Crawlers, just because they did what they needed to do, and they set the tone of the game from turn 1. For the Sisters, I'm going to give it to the 20 strong unit of Sisters. I think it was a good proof of concept. I think it does work. I think you've seen it in other battle reports as well. It just couldn't capitalize on what it did best, because it was hamstrung from the beginning of turn 1. So that was that for the battle report. It's a quick one. 3 turns in, we kind of knew what was going to happen. There was going to be an army, a tabling there, and then the points would just take off for the Death Guard past then. So Death Guard with a win. But looking at the points throughout the 3 turns, it was neck and neck. But the attrition was just, lopsided. And then after that, just to save some time and to chat about it afterwards, we wanted to end it at turn 3 because we kind of knew what was going to happen. So hopefully still fun to watch. Hopefully there's some learning experiences for both Death Guard players and Sisters players watching this. We certainly had fun doing it. Beautiful battlefield as always, with the big tall terrain and line of sight blocking. It really sets the mood. So like and subscribe if you have been enjoying our content. More to come. As always, we have some fun battle reports coming up.